We're really fortunate here at the School of Knock to have so many new people coming into archery for the first time. So if you're new to archery and you want to help improve your learning experience, I thought maybe I would just give you some quick little tips on how to be better at being a beginner. So one of the things that you need to know is there's kind of a lot going on with archery, if I'm honest with you. A lot of times people are very intimidated with knowing how this thing works. Obviously, you're putting a lot of tension into something and then trusting it while you're kind of waiting and then expecting it to launch an arrow, and a lot of people think it's going to be as loud as a gun, but it's not. But some of the things that you have to remember are what you first write into your brain and what you first kind of program into your brain is some really important data that may never change if you don't do it right at the very beginning. So what I would really urge you to do is follow some of our series that kind of talks through different aspects of archery, but learn to break down your experience to where when you're working on a certain aspect of archery, you really focus on slowing things down and making sure that the first time you're writing that code, you're writing that code in the right way. And it's my experience that if I take a little bit more time, and for a lot of you, you may even listen to podcasts on 1.5 because I even talk a little bit slower. But I do that because I'm processing. And the same is true with archery. And maybe that's why I feel like I've been gifted with it, is because I've always slowed down the process and really tried to have all of those building blocks done the right way. Now for me, I had to do a complete reprogram at age 20, which was a decade into my archery experience, and just a lot of poor habits and self-taught things had caught up with me and it wasn't fun anymore. So I had to just completely do a reboot, and it was then, and also as I've learned other types of things that in a way are similar to archery, I've recognized the importance of starting to try to break categories out of this to where you can work on small things, but if you learn the right way to do it, just really focus on that. And even as tedious and repetitive as it may seem, if you focus on that up front, what you're going to be paid back down the road is almost tenfold. It's beyond belief. But if you cut corners now, then what's going to happen is as you fast forward and all those little corners that you cut have started to round off, and now they're just pretty much just like these sharp ways that really don't lead the right direction, I feel like you're going to struggle. I hope to gosh you never have, target panic or, anticipation of the trigger, because that leads to worse things down the road. So compartmentalize all the different aspects of archery. So for example, I actually didn't even think of this until I had a student that even took me one step further back and said, can you talk to me specifically about how you knock your arrow? Because the way they were doing it just seemed so unorthodox versus me just knowing that I've got my bow here, I slide my arrow forward, put my finger on the other side of the knock, and then just pull it back onto the string. Never even thought of it. But they were doing it this unorthodox way. So even something as small as today I'm going to work on just really focusing on loading my arrow properly. Or maybe the next day or the next training session, you're just, today I'm just going to focus on my feet. And I'm just going to really make sure my feet are exactly where they told me to do it when I was in class. And I'm just going to make sure that's 100%. What you don't want to do is try to go too far too fast and try to start forgetting about some of the very basic steps like feet, because you're wanting to shoot an uphill shot at 100 yards because it looks cool to do, and it is. But it might be as simple as, if you're going to shoot uphill but you don't understand footing, you're going to be all over the place. You're going to miss the target anyway. When it comes to like the different releases, that's something that a lot of people struggle with because they try too many releases because they feel like every one of them is a placebo to maybe make them shoot better. But the reality is you need to pick one, and you need to focus on programming your code with the one until that code processes without any bugs in the system. And then once that's happening, then you move on to try a different type of release. Now, the other thing that I can't stress enough is, even though you're new to archery and you're going to get lessons and people are going to show you how to shoot this, where you can follow along with all the things that we do and we'll help you learn to shoot it, don't overlook a simple shot trainer. We have these, and this was a product that came out a long time ago, and I recognize how cool it was and how easy it was to practice my archery while I was on the road. And so since then, Knock On has acquired the right release, because this thing was just awesome to be able to take with you anywhere and learn to master a release aid. So one of the things that I want to talk to you too about is, when you're programming that code, don't look past a shot trainer. These are cheap, but you can also just use a big string, which is what I used to use. When I reprogrammed my code, I started shooting a string in my office while I was making calls all day with a headset, and I just had it off to the left side and had the microphone out far enough to where, as I was calling and talking to people, I could just work on the small things of how to bring my release up and clip it into a D loop. Seems so simple, but I've tried it all these different ways and realized, yeah, the best way is to just come up from the bottom, close it, and I'm ready to go, right? The other thing is just having a little bit of tension and just recognizing my grip. Or maybe when I change my hand position, how the string starts to change too, showing that I'm torquing the bow. Or just working on being able to have something where I can hold a release and feel what this feels like, and kind of understand the difference of like where I can put my thumb without having this bow that's trying to take that string away from me. So break down the different things that you want to learn and really look at it like you're literally programming something for the very first time. And if you put in a bunch of BS at the very beginning, it's going to be that much harder to dig out of that once you've piled so much on top of it. So just small chunks, focus on the fundamentals, and if you do that, you're going to be a much better beginner.